steam.
It was just after 2:30 this afternoon that Eastern Flight 70 made an unscheduled stop at Will Rogers World Airport. The plane, bound from San Francisco to Atlanta, was diverted to Oklahoma City after a bomb scare.
There had been a call indicating a bomb was on board Flight 70, and he apparently was in the vicinity of Oklahoma City, and it was determined that would be the nearest large airport. He was diverted in here in order to have the plane searched, which it was. The luggage was also searched. The bomb-sniffing dog apparently examined everything, and nothing was found.
But it took airport officials more than 3 hours before that determination was made. 210 passengers were unloaded and shuttled over to the Air National Guard's hangar, where they were questioned by FBI investigators. Finally, just after 6 o'clock this evening, Flight 70 was ready to continue its scheduled journey. The bomb threat was a hoax. Passengers were reboarded, and the jet once again was headed for Atlanta. Whoever made that initial bomb threat told Eastern Airlines, quote, "My brother was recently fired by Eastern, and there's a bomb on Flight 70," end quote. The FBI is questioning several people and says it has a good suspect. Terry Cook, News 4.
Right now, we're holding a good level of our pumps. Okay, so they're all good.
It's a very distinct possibility. We'll, as I said, be watching it every day, and if we have further problems develop, I imagine that will be the next step.
On Wednesday, July the 26th, around 7:30 in the morning, a young woman was doing her laundry in the far northwest laundromat near Lyrewood Lane. Suddenly, finding the woman alone in the laundromat, a man came in, grabbed her, brutally assaulted her, and raped the woman. He was described as a white male in his 30s, around 6'2", 240 pounds. He had clean-cut hair, blue eyes, and a slight mustache. He was tanned and had a muscular build. He was wearing a T-shirt and blue jeans at the time of the rape. Police detectives advise us that this suspect is probably involved in 2 other rapes. So if you have any information about this rape or any other serious crime, contact Crimestoppers, 235-7300. All callers will remain anonymous, and you could earn up to a $1,000 reward. For Crimestoppers, thank you very much. I'm Detective Sugar Smith.
The stream will not produce the fishery that it should. The stream will not adequately allow for recreational use. And the stream is a contaminated stream in the interim.
We're talking about the Canadian.
Well, you could be talking about the streams also that receive waste from Del City and Midwest City as well.
Bob Hopkins doesn't wear a white hat, but he's becoming known as a good guy on local highways. Bob's job is to patrol Oklahoma City area interstates in his courtesy cruiser, searching for drivers in distress.
Northwest 30th and May, this will be a non-injury accident.
A local radio station and tire store pay for the van Bob uses to help stranded motorists. The courtesy cruiser is well equipped with gasoline, jumper cables, and even a mobile telephone.
My car is broken down and I'm at the corner of Western and I-44. Yeah. I was wondering if you could come get me. I think it's pretty special. It takes a good person to do something like this. God looks well on somebody who does something like this, I think.
Can I be of assistance in any way?
Well, I think he ran out of gas. We put a gallon.
People often offer to pay for his cruiser services, but the only reward Bob Hopkins wants is the satisfaction of knowing he's helped someone in trouble.
I know if my wife was out there and someone came up like this, I would thoroughly appreciate it, and she would too. You know, just appreciate somebody being there, whether they could help them or not. They'd appreciate them being there. Okay, try now.
I don't know what we'd have done, because I didn't have any gas, so he got us going. So I think it's a great thing. I didn't know there was such a thing.
So don't be surprised if someday when you have car trouble, a friendly stranger in a white van stops to help. Remember that good guys don't always wear white hats. Scott Wallace, News 4. House arrest allows certain low-risk inmates to serve their prison sentences at home. Only a couple dozen inmates were allowed to be under house arrest when the program began 4 years ago. Prisoners had to meet strict guidelines to become eligible for the policy. Corrections officials relaxed those rules last year as they tried to use house arrest to reduce prison overpopulation. As the number of convicts on house arrest increased, so did the program's problems. State lawmakers complained after a convicted sex offender on house arrest was charged with raping a 10-year-old girl. More than a third of the inmates on house arrest were either rearrested or sent back to prison. Lawmakers ordered state corrections officials to restrict the number of prisoners on house arrest and to prohibit convicted sex offenders from serving their sentences at home.
So if there's ever any question about whether or not this is a legitimate program or a clearly legislatively authorized program, then that, I think, protects me, and I like that very much. And so in some ways, house arrest now is a certified, valid, on-the-books program.
Corrections officials say they won't try to use house arrest just to reduce prison overpopulation. So if these prisons remain overcrowded, then corrections officials will likely come back before the legislature to ask for more money to build new prisons. Scott Wallace, News 4 in Lexington. The Wewoka Bureau of Indian Affairs office is responsible for administering programs for Oklahoma Seminole Indians.
Hello.
Hi.
Security is unusually strict inside the headquarters building following reports of an alleged plot by 3,000 disgruntled Indians to take over the office. Some federal police officers have been brought in to make sure that reported threat is not carried out. Some Seminoles are angry with the BIA's refusal to release an estimated $1.5 million in tribal money during the past 3 years. The government says the Seminoles' money has been held up by internal tribal squabbling and the tribe's refusal to pay back the BIA an estimated $250,000 in reportedly misused funds. Whatever the reason for the alleged threat, government officials say they won't be intimidated.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs, nor the federal government, is in the business of making war or fighting with Indians. We don't want to create that atmosphere. However, we feel that we have a right to protect the personnel of the agency and our clients who are in this building.
By mid-afternoon, no one had showed up to take over this Wewoka BIA office. In fact, the person who passed along the alleged threat was more than 50 miles away playing golf. We caught up with Seminole Tribal Chief James Milam as he prepared to tee off in the Oklahoma Indian Open golf tournament. Chief Milam has been a frequent critic of the U.S. government's administration of his tribe. However, the chief says he doesn't think the BIA should worry about an armed takeover of its Wewoka office.
As far as I know, to me, all it is a figment of BIA's imagination. Now, I've heard rumors from off and on, for the past 3 years, that there's going to be an armed takeover of that place,
Bureau of Indian Affairs officials won't say how long the armed officers will patrol their Wewoka headquarters. Observers say they hope tensions will die down after next month's Seminole tribal elections. Scott Wallace, News 4 in Wewoka.
That's used in the national estimate of disqualification been pretty well developed over the employers that voluntarily employment has never completely recovered from the recession and oil slump that occurred in late 81, 82. We're still about 50,000 non-farm jobs under our late 81, early 82 totals.
Be ready to take Carr. He's very fine supervisor, shipbuilding organization. Right and left, take. Bosun, pipe and crew quarters.
He was wanting to come into Oklahoma.
Even as mad as I am at Dr. Burton for not starting following through with the clinic in Oklahoma, and the blame is totally his, I still feel like the man is helping some cancer patients. They were not screening the blood properly in the Bahamas, and there was quite a few patients that did get hepatitis. This just recently is the first I've heard of any AIDS, but yes, it could happen easily.
to me, it signifies life, that we need to realize how important life is and to celebrate it and do everything that we can to preserve our life and the life of our planet.
Like these oil leases we got now.
7 of 83. We've got 100.
I got to see some results first. That's just a piece of paper written. I could write a piece of paper and make it sound good too, but it's got to work first. It's got to work for us Indians. It can't just work for one way towards the BIA's way. It's got to work for all of us.
Lake Arcadia will be located on the Deep Fork River, about 5 miles east of Edmond. It was authorized by Congress back in 1970. The $85 million project went through public hearings concerning water quality and some protests of some local landowners. First work began 5 years ago. It's now moving in high gear.
The greatest amount of activity is going on right here, on top of the dam, and this work should be done by the end of October.
The Corps of Engineers Lake will be created by an earthen dam, nearly a mile long. It's being formed, for the most part, by dirt scooped off of what will be the lake bed. The center is water-impermeable clay, and it's all being tamped down by equipment. When completed, the dam will be 104 feet above the lake bed, with a paved road crossing it. The city of Edmond is putting more than half the cost of the project over a number of years, but officials believe it's money well spent.
With Arcadia Lake, that will provide us an additional 11 to 14 million gallons of water a day to supplement our water supply and help us with our growth and other needs for the city.
Of course, Oklahoma lakes have a recreational value, too. This one will provide more than 27,000 acre-feet of water for fishermen. They've already laid out fish beds and shelters for when Arcadia is stocked. It will be a fee-access lake with some free areas, operated by Edmond, complete with boat ramps, a marina, a 36-hole golf course, and more.
This here is a man-made beach. It's about a foot thick with sand that came from off-site. You can see down here at the bottom of it, that'll be about 7 or 8 foot of water over it, and it comes about halfway up the beach.
Grading, road work, and brush clearing is proceeding on schedule. Officials say the lake should be filled to its initial level late in 1987. And that's something for thirsty Edmondites to look forward to in these days of odd-even water rationing. George Tomic, News 4.
Truck this month with approved credit and pay nothing down at Southwest Ford. That's incredible! Oh, that's Southwest Ford.
He's been all-encompassing as a performer, as well as a organizer and a motivator and a promoter of the arts. He's going to be, well, he's irreplaceable. It's
sorely missed.
He will be very, very, very missed. And he's a wonderful guy, a terrific guy. You know, probably one of the nicest people that you'd ever want to meet.
The explosions and subsequent grass fires blackened an area hundreds of yards in all directions. The blast threw explosive materials more than half a mile, causing officials to evacuate Shakota and close off 2 highways 4 miles from the site. Bomb fragments were scattered along the roadside, and the force of the explosions opened up a 25-foot deep crater in the eastbound lane of I-40. The explosions occurred just after 4:15 this morning, when the Oklahoma City-based bomb transport truck, on its way from McAllister to North Carolina, collided with a car carrying 2 women.
The lady was coming on this on-ramp in the car. No doubt was very, very slow. Instead of staying in this lane, she pulled in the middle. When he tried to swerve to miss her completely, he did catch the outside corner, and that's what spun her in, evidently, to the bridge.
The truck was carrying 10 one-ton Mark 84 load drag bombs. Each contained 1,000 pounds of explosive material. They were set off by the fire that followed the collision. The truck's driver and the 2 women in the car were injured in the first explosion. 3 firemen were hurt when another of the bombs went off. The explosions were massive. They shattered windows half a mile away, and bricks were literally torn from the sides of buildings.
Once everybody team up in pairs, go two together.
More than a dozen highway patrol officers were sent out with stakes to mark the spots where unexploded bomb material was found. Army bomb experts from Fort Sill were flown in and said the material was not a threat to explode, and said bombs like these would not normally detonate in an accident.
They do not have fuses installed, so they normally do not detonate when they're involved in an accident. Except with this accident, I don't know what caused it or anything like that. There was a fire. During a fire, high explosives can detonate, and they did in this case.
And an Oklahoma congressman who drove to the scene promised an investigation into how an explosion like this could happen.
Obviously, that'll be part of the investigation, is to understand how this could have happened and whether or not necessary precautions were taken in the transportation of these types of dangerous materials.
If there are individuals out there that's operating illegally, they should know that we now have an adequate number of agents to take the time necessary to bring their operation to a stop.
We hate as much as you do, but I just, in my view, we made the hard fights during budget times, and we had to sit there nose to nose and decide who was going to be laid off and what jobs we were going to cut back on, and we put back in what we thought we could live with. It's a really tough time. It has been for a long time.
The sign posted on the front door of Security Bank and Trust of Midwest City told the entire story. Banking Commissioner Robert Empey ordered this institution to cease and desist operation at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Inside, an FDIC liquidation team was busy scanning the bad loans and preparing the failed institution for new owners. The bank's former president says security wrote off more than $5 million worth of bad loans over the past 3 years. That loan portfolio consisted of a variety of energy, retail, and horse loans. According to the state banking commissioner, Security Bank and Trust teetered on the brink of disaster for 3 years. After close monitoring, Empey was convinced the institution could not be recapitalized.
The bank had suffered loan losses to the extent that its entire capital was depleted, and the directors and owners of the bank were unable or unwilling to replace the capital lost by bad loans.
Combat Bank Shares has assumed the assets of the failed bank. The company also owns and operates Community Bank in War Acres. All depositors will be protected in this closing. The new president says it will be business as usual tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
We're very happy to be here, and we can assure all the depositors that their funds are safe. We assumed all the deposits, and we'll be open for business at 9 o'clock in the morning.